afternoon, and welcome to the last episode of Final Take for the semester. We have a draft special for you as the NFL Draft is just 2 days away. I'm Curtis Round, and on today's show, we have Marty Kaufman, Jocelyn Pomplin, Nathan Hansen, and Ben Zutini. Guys, how are you? Are you guys ready for the draft? Marty, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm always looking forward to draft weekend. You could say it's kind of a nice. I like the way they change up the 3 days, so it's a big weekend to watch sports.
Yeah, I'm sick of listening to McShay and Kuiper talk, so I just want to get it done with.
Yeah, I've been waiting since the end of the college football season. They have the combine, and then you look at all the prospects, and then there's so much dead time between the combine and the draft. They just tease you with all the mock drafts. I'm finally excited to see who picks who.
Yeah, I'm ready to get this thing on the road, but got to keep some time to watch Bucs Game 6 against the Bulls. So.
Yeah, you plugging the Bucs in here. I'm just ready for the Panthers to start their journey to the playoffs starting this week. So we're getting ready for that. Well, for folks at home, this special episode, we will be mocking the entire first round of the NFL Draft. We will go pick by pick. We randomize each of our names for the 32 picks. And to start off with pick number 1 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Ben Zutini, who do you got him taking?
Obviously, Jameis Winston. I don't think anybody else has anything different. The Buccaneers are in need of a franchise lift, a change, and you do that by getting your franchise quarterback, and he's obviously by far the best quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, I agree. He's going to be the number 1 pick. He showed it at his pro day and the combine. He's been throwing the ball well. I think the off-field issues are behind him. He had that meeting with Jim Harbaugh back before the combine. He went over all that stuff, had good interviews, so I think he's the clear-cut number 1 pick.
Yeah, he's been considered the consensus number 1 pick, I think, since the combine almost. It's interesting because of all the off-field issues he's had. I mean, it's surprising that this guy, the consensus is he's going number 1 to the Buccaneers, so they must think that he's past these off-field character issues. I also think that I've seen it too, he probably is one of the better quarterbacks, maybe is the top quarterback in the draft just because the way he plays. I mean, he played a more pro style, it looked like. He's not very mobile, which some people think he is, but he looks more like a Ben Roethlisberger type quarterback where he can stay in the pocket and he can kind of move around too out of there. So I think he's going to be, if he's anything like Ben Roethlisberger, it's a solid number 1 pick.
Yeah, and I saw a preview for tonight. They're having a special with John Gruden and Mel Kiper on John Gruden's little show or whatever. And they showed a preview, and John Gruden is trying to make the case that Mariota's better, and he brings up that he's more athletic. Mel Kiper agrees. He is more accurate. Mel Kiper agrees. He doesn't have off-the-field issues. And all this stuff adds up, and there's no case to say that Jameis Winston is better than Mariota besides his arm size. So, I mean, what do you guys think of that? I seen that. I thought John Gruden made great points. It was almost like him when he brought up Russell Wilson a few years ago when Mel Kiper didn't think he'd be anything.
I think it's more so, too. I've seen stuff too where it's like Mariota was always in shotgun, and he usually had about 1 read or it was tuck and run or something like that. So, like, his offense was kind of not a pro-style offense where he didn't have many reads and that he was in the shotgun more. But, I mean, it's right. I mean, all that stuff being said, that athletic, he can play quarterback, and he's no off-field issues. So it's interesting to see. We don't know what Tampa Bay sees in Jameis Winston, but it's pretty incredible to think that they prefer Winston, all of his baggage, over Mariota.
Yeah, I'm not worried about his mobility at all either. I mean, you look at Mariota, and his mobility is obviously strong, but you look at Kaepernick last year, didn't have a very good year. Russell Wilson hasn't run. This year he ran more, but the years previous he hasn't run that much. He just needs a little bit of mobility. Jameis Winston does like he has now, and I think he'll be fine.
You want to jump in?
No, I think the system Jameis played in college is more pro-ready than Mariota was.
All right, we'll leave it at that. With the next pick, we have the Tennessee Titans. Jocelyn, you're on.
Well, I know a lot of you guys are probably thinking Marcus Mariota, Tennessee, and then they'd have the big matchup in week 1, Winston versus Mariota, but I'm actually going a different way. With Leonard Williams, the defensive end out of USC. I feel Tennessee can use Zach Mettenberger, let him learn the next couple of years, and just get the best player available like Leonard Williams and do that for the next 2 or 3 years, just continue getting good picks. And by then, Mettenberger should be ready to go, and Tennessee should be starting to compete every year.
So are you doing this based off of Tennessee maybe trading out of that pick a little bit? Or do you think they take Leonard Williams at number 2 with Mariota still on the board? Or do you think they trade out and maybe hope to get Williams?
They could trade it. I don't know if the Rivers trade is still a possibility, but this Leonard Williams, best player available, can't miss prospect. I feel they take him. Mettenberger's had some bright spots last year, but he was a rookie coming off a knee injury. He'll be much better in year 2.
Yeah, Tennessee has talked so high of Mettenberger. I'm not sure why personally, but I feel like that's the guy they're going to go with, and I have them taking Leonard Williams as well.
You know, and I saw a report on Twitter here, and I'm looking at it right now, and I don't know where this came from, but I've heard rumors that Titans are not expected to take Williams here. I think it's for sure going to be Mariota. I don't know what else. I mean, do you think it's going to be Mariota?
I think Mariota's the number 2 pick. I just don't know who's taking him. I think if Tennessee does go with Leonard Williams, then you're going to see a boatload of teams calling Jacksonville's number to get to number 3. I think if he gets past number 2, it's going to be a crazy 15 minutes or whatever the clock is in the first round. That's for sure.
Ben, any objections?
Well, I don't agree with this pick because I have Leonard Williams going a pick later to Jacksonville. But like Marty said, if Tennessee does take Leonard Williams, then a lot of people are going to be calling Jacksonville to see what's on the table for their 3rd pick.
Yeah, and it was reported by Jim White, he's a beat reporter for the Titans, and he said that they have bigger needs on the team and they are looking to pass on him. So we'll see where that ends up.
They could go away from quarterback too. They have so many needs, so I don't know if Mariota too going to Tennessee is going to benefit him right away either.
All right, let's keep this rolling. Ben, you're up again with the 3rd pick. Jacksonville Jaguars. Who are they taking? They need a lot.
Like I said, they need defense. Leonard Williams. I mean, who else do they have on that defense? Paul Posluszny. I mean, come on.
They did get Jared Odrick from Miami. They made some free agent signings, but they need help.
As it shows in the past, defense does win championships, and they need to build up that defense, and it all starts up front with a good defensive line.
And Ben, I don't think you get the format of the show
Leonard
here.
Williams is off the board.
Leonard
You gotta
Williams
take
is off
one.
the board, so you got to take someone else here.
Well, then I'll go with Dante Fowler Jr., the linebacker defensive end hybrid from Florida. He would be the next best player available, and he's an absolute stud.
Yeah, I had him going Jacksonville here in my mock too. I just thought he played a lot of different positions on the D line, so Gus Bradley can make him versatile, I think. But what Jacksonville has had a history with Florida pass rushers taking them, and Derek Harvey, he was kind of a big bust, but it seems like Dante Fowler's been everyone who's scouted him or whatever, they really love Dante Fowler.
Yeah, there's not much wrong with Dante Fowler. I think that's where he goes, number 3.
Yeah, and I've even seen reports Jets would do anything to move up to get this guy.
Same with the Falcons too. I've seen that too. So I guess he's a big high riser.
All right, well, we're just going to keep this moving right along here. We have the 4th pick with the Oakland Raiders, and Marty, you got that team.
Well, I had Leonard Williams too, but I'm not going to rant on that like Ben did. But so their needs were DN, wide receiver, and offensive guard. Leonard Williams is off the board, so we're going to go another pick we've seen constantly, and Amari Cooper goes to the Raiders. I think Raiders would take Leonard Williams or Amari Cooper in that spot, or they could trade down. I just think Amari Cooper, he seems to be just the most – I think he's a top wide receiver. He just looks so smooth. I've seen a couple of tapes of him. He just seems kind of smooth to me, and that he's going to provide Derek Carr a weapon, I think. Derek Carr, that's what he kind of lacks. Amari Cooper, these guys can form a nice combo, I think, in the future for the Raiders to succeed.
And let's talk about that number 1 wide receiver in the draft, because I've seen a lot of people say Kevin White. Do you think if both of them are there, you think Cooper's going to take the upper hand over White?
Yeah, I think Kevin White is really up to stock since the combine, I think, too, is that I saw a little bit of him. He's more of a catch-and-go kind of guy. He's a speedster. Amari Cooper can kind of do everything. It looked like probably better than White, but it's probably a preference. I just think Amari Cooper's a safer pick at wide receiver.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with Amari Cooper. Definitely the most complete receiver in the draft. Raiders, they like picking receivers in the past, but Derek Carr needs that number 1 target, and Amari Cooper fits that bill.
But I would say, though, that I had Leonard Williams going before, and I think had Tennessee, that's who I would say if Leonard Williams is there for Oakland, I think they'd take him and pair him up with Khalil Mack. But Amari Cooper is a good consolation anyways. They're a safe pick for their offense. They need help on both sides of the ball.
Alrighty then. Does anyone else have any objections or want to? All right. Let's keep this moving along then. It looks like, Ben, you just love to be in this first 5 picks here. You have the Washington Redskins at pick 5.
I have them taking Kevin White, the wide receiver out of West Virginia. The player he's been compared to lately is Larry Fitzgerald, and who wouldn't love to have the next Larry Fitzgerald? RG3, they picked up RG3's 5th-year option, and he needs weapons. All he has is Deshaun Jackson and maybe a tight end or two, and they need the weapons. So with the 5th pick, they're going to take Kevin White.
That's interesting to me. I think they've had some wide receivers. Let's look up Pierre Garcon and Deshaun Jackson. I think they seem fine on their offense. I mean, I would have gone, I think in mine here I have Vic Beasley just because they lost to Rackbo and their defense needs some help. So Kevin White, I mean, teams could fall in love with him. I could see them taking a wide receiver. I've seen that as a need. Just an interesting pick. But maybe RG3 doesn't need more talent around him. Maybe I think too he needs more time to heal. But Kevin White, people love Kevin White. That's a fact.
I had Vic Beasley as well. Washington definitely needs a lot more defensive help, and they need help at wide receivers since they got Garcon and Deshaun Jackson already. So
Kevin White could be the best player available on offense
could take best player, but I think they need more help on defense.
Yeah, and I agree with both you guys. I think Vic Beasley is the top pick for them. And if he doesn't go there, he's just going to start slipping to some other of these teams, and they're going to jump all over it. But let's move on here. We have Jostin at pick 6, New York Jets.
Well, here's where your guy Marcus Mariota comes off the board. They've given Geno Smith a chance this year. They have a ton of weapons to help at the wide receiver position, trading for Brandon Marshall. But I think they go and get Marcus Mariota here.
And Jostin, I know we're not doing trades, but is it you're sold on him going to the Jets here, or do you think a team could?
No trades, yes. Marcus Mariota to the Jets. It's definite upgrade over Geno Smith.
See, I don't see how he goes from he lasts from pick 2 to 6. Some team's going to get up before them, but if he somehow falls to the Jets, I think the Jets, you have to take him.
I think the only way he goes before that is if there is a trade.
Yeah, I see someone trading up with probably Oakland or Washington, maybe Jacksonville, to get up in that spot. I see probably more with that 5th pick. I think the Redskins could go down a little bit, especially if they draft Kevin White, they could go back
I think
and
most
find
of
a
this
wide
draft
receiver.
really depends on what Tennessee does.
Yeah, it's
too.
really going to depend on the number 2 picks. But if Marcus Mariota was there for the Jets, I see them taking him too.
I don't think the Jaguars or Raiders are going to trade out of those spots. Those guys, they want those guys. They want Amari Cooper and Dante Fowler. Those are two of the top 5 players in the draft, and I don't think they're going to trade out of their position just to let someone else take
Yeah,
Mariota.
it's that 5th pick with Washington. I think that could be.
That would be the X factor.
And Washington could really get some draft picks back from that trade of RG3 a couple years ago, and they can build through this draft.
Yeah.
Well, all right, with that, we're going to move on here. We have the Chicago Bears at 7. That's me. Best player available, Vic Beasley, without a doubt. John Fox, defensive guy. He falls to them, and they get a gift.
Yeah, I had them taking in mind. I had Randy Gregory, surprisingly, the Bears. I thought, defensive-wise, they need a pass rusher. John Fox had Von Miller in Denver, and Vic Fangio had Aldon Smith in San Fran. Their defenses really need pass rushers. They had some free agent signings with Lamar Houston, or was it Lamar or Justin? Lamar Houston.
Lamar Houston.
Yeah. So, I mean, he can do it, but Vic Beasley at 7 is a steal for the Bears, I think. They need a pass rusher.
Yeah, I had Vic Beasley at 5 to Washington, but he took Kevin White, and I had Kevin White going to the Bears as a replacement for Brandon Marshall, but the Bears could definitely use the defensive help of Vic Beasley.
If Vic Beasley's there, take him. I don't think he will be. I think he's gone 5 to the Redskins, so I think they take Danny Shelton, defensive tackle out of Washington. He's just stood out and filmed everyone, and he just keeps rising.
I think they need more defensive help than offense, especially with Cutler at quarterback. I don't think a wide receiver does anything for him, but a defensive guy like Vic Beasley he seems to be a more natural pass rusher than anything else, so he can really boost that defense up.
And John Fox, he's going to switch that entire offense up, and they'll be running the ball 30 times a game, so that's going to play something into their offense too. So every draft that he's been in with the Panthers is defense first, so I think that's our overall pick there. Moving on, I'm up again here with the Atlanta Falcons, and do I love them. I hope they don't get this guy, but I see it happening. Randy Gregory out of Nebraska. This will be a great pick for them, and they can start building that defense up with their new coach. I think it would be a perfect pick for them.
Yeah, who knows where he's going to fall. He's been projected to fall. I've seen a mock where he falls to the Packers at 30. I doubt he makes it that far. He probably goes in the teens. That could happen, or he could go to Atlanta. I mean, pass rushers seem to have some issues going on right now, off the field issues, and I think Vic Beasley and Fowler are probably going to be 1 and 2. You don't know with Bud Dupree, but I think Gregory might be the 3rd one taken just because he seems to have that talent to be taken in the top 10.
Well, you said it, Bud Dupree. I think that's where he goes. I like their position. They need to go linebacker, but I think Randy Gregory's off the field issues just drop him way down too low, and he's not that. He's undersized for his position.
But all right, I'm going to cut you off here, Nate. I disagree with you. I mean, Randy Gregory. When did these reports come out that he had the marijuana back on the combine? Right? Is
A
that
little bit after the combine.
a little bit after the combine? I mean, this wasn't 3 days before the draft. These teams had time to talk to these guys. They've had quizzed them, set them straight. Hey, is this what you're going to be doing? And trying to feel them out. I think teams with his talent level, you'd be stupid to pass on him. If that's a need for your team. But who knows? I mean, anything can happen.
Well, I had Bud Dupree, so basically the same position. They needed a linebacker.
It's a hard position to pick who won. Like, it's a preference of that team.
I just
so
had
it's hard
Randy
to pick.
Gregory a little lower because of the off-the-field issues, but nonetheless, still a good pick for the
There
Falcons.
seems to be always something. There's a flag or something that people don't like with each of these
I
pass
was
rushing
watching
prospects.
today. I heard there was like 6 out of the top 10 picks had some kind of issues with them. So
I mean, you saw last week McShay and Kuiper had a mock draft. They didn't have Vic Beasley in the first round. I don't know if they forgot about him or something, but he was not even in the first round.
Yeah, and I think you just picked Bud Dupree there because would you rather have the guy that hasn't had any past things, off-field issues, or would you just have the guy with the
People
clean
can
slate?
change.
Yeah.
That's true, but that's why I think they take Dupree.
All right, let's move on here. Let's go to pick 9. We have Marty, excuse me, with the New York Giants. Who are they taking?
So in my mock, I have them taking Brandon Scherf. They need O-line help, and I'm just going to stick to that. Seems to be a pick. What I'm seeing right now is that he's probably his best would be as an offensive guard in the NFL. You need a line help, especially with Eli Manning. They're you never know what the Giants are going to do, but I think they just play it safe and taking Scherf. Iowa offensive linemen seem to be the top offensive lineman draft prospects every year. I think that they're going to continue that, and it's not a flashy pick, but it's a lineman pick, and he seems to be considered one of the best linemen in the draft, if not the best one.
yeah, I agree. Brandon Scherf can play guard or tackle and need to protect Eli Manning. See if they can bounce back.
And I got a question. I just table this idea, and this is just a scenario for everyone here. Let's say Kevin White falls to the Giants. You think they'd take him?
Yes. I've seen stuff with Amari Cooper and Kevin White slipping. If there's a wide receiver there, I think they put him in there with Victor Cruz and
I mean,
Odell
can you
Beckham.
imagine Victor Cruz, Odell Beckham, and then you got Kevin White on there too? I mean,
Yeah, I think they would do that,
That'd be
but
a
I
great
think
group of receivers.
I think with what we've got so far, there's really nothing. No one's kind of fell to the Giants yet. I think they just played safe with best player available in alignment, which fills a need for them.
They have multiple needs on the offensive line, and I think Sheriff can cover a couple of positions there.
You're not liking my situation, are you, Nate?
Not at all.
All right, let's move on here to pick 10. We have Justin with the St. Louis Rams. Who are
Well,
they
I think
taking?
this is going to be one of the most surprising picks in the draft. Not the position-wise, but the player. A lot of people's Eric Flowers, offensive tackle from Miami. Now, this might be a little high, but they need help on the offensive line. He's a big guy, really strong tackle. They need a right tackle. He can step in for them right away.
I'm going to have him in my first round, so I have nothing to.
I don't
Yeah,
either.
I mean,
think
you
that's
never-
a little high for him.
Linemen are so hard to look at. It's probably just a team preference. I think we don't. I mean, we don't really care for offensive lineman picks or really to look at them. So that's another position that's team preference. It's what do they know in interviews? What have they seen on
There are
tape?
definitely other offensive tackles.
There are so
that
many
they can
tackles
pick.
in this draft.
And
It's-
Justin, do they need a left tackle at all, or what position?
They don't have Jake Long anymore.
He would play right tackle because Greg Robinson, their first-round pick from last year, would move to left tackle, and I was reading that.
But if
someone
Brandon
would go to
Scherf is
guard.
not picked by the Giants, I see him going
Yeah.
to St. Louis. I can see him going
If
offensive
Scherf is
line.
still there, then they'll take him.
And also, too, I had them taking Kevin White. I thought Kevin White would go to 10, and I think he would be. If there's a wide receiver they like, I could see them taking that. Or you never know with the Rams, they could trade out.
I had Kevin White at 10.
All right, well, Nate had Kevin White at 10.
Then like him at 9.
Let's move on here. Right? This is the pick, and Justin, me and you will go at this one. I'll say mine, and you can fire back at me. The Minnesota Vikings at pick 11. I got them taking, and most mock drafts do, Trey Waynes, cornerback out of Michigan State. They get to have a number 2 receiver, number 1 opposite Xavier Rhodes, and then Munnerlin gets slotted back to the nickel corner where he's best at. I think, without a doubt, Zimmer's got to boost that defense up to go against the Packers and Lions and Bears in that division. Without a doubt, this best corner, barring the off-the-field issues with the guy out of Washington.
Yeah, I
Peters.
definitely agree. Trey Wayne's best corner in the draft. Put him opposite Xavier Rhodes and move Munnerlin back inside, rather than going after. They could go after a guy like Devontae Parker, but with Zimmer being a defensive guy and in the division they're in with all the offense, I think Trey Wayne's is the right pick.
Absolutely. I think you guys nailed it.
Yeah, it seems to be a consensus pick to the Vikings. It makes sense. I think Zimmer goes defense with him. That defense is up and coming. I think it's going to be that can pose a problem for the Packers in the future, I think.
Ben, anything?
I actually have the Vikings taking Devontae Parker, the wide receiver out of Louisville. When him and Teddy Bridgewater were at Louisville, they were the perfect quarterback-wide receiver combo. And it's become pretty obvious that Cordell Patterson doesn't really fit into their
Can't catch the
scheme
ball.
or hasn't ever fit into their scheme that they're running in. Teddy Bridgewater is a young quarterback and he needs weapons to throw to.
You know, I saw a report, I think it was a day or two ago, that someone in the Vikings organization said Patterson has really grown up and has gotten better over this past offseason, so we'll see if that continues.
He had a mentor, and for the first time in 4 years, he's going to have the same playbook. And not like a different playbook at junior college, then at Tennessee, then his rookie year, then last year. Finally, he'll have the same playbook to learn, and it'll make it that much easier for him.
Well, let's move on here then. We have pick number 12, the Cleveland Browns. Marty, you're on the clock here.
Well, we all know Cleveland just seems. Remember 1 year ago they drafted Justin Gilbert and Johnny Manziel, and it was like Cleveland's going to be back. Nothing happened. So we all know what happened there. They need a lot of needs. I saw needs. They need wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, and outside linebacker. His name came up just to pick a goat. Devontae Parker. He goes to Cleveland. I think he steps into Josh Gordon's spot. Whoever's quarterbacking Cleveland Browns, we don't know who that will be, but he's one of the better wide receivers I've seen in the draft. He's big. He uses his size and strength to go for the ball. So I think this guy can easily step in Cleveland and make an impact on offense that desperately needs wide receiver help.
Yeah, I have the Browns taking Devontae Parker too. They have no one. Gordon's out for the year now, so they have really no one out there in receiver. And I think that's the perfect place for him. The Browns could easily, I think, screw this up and not draft him, but I think that's the guy they need to take.
Yeah, they didn't take a wide receiver a year ago, which they should have when everyone knew the day of the draft that Josh Gordon was being suspended for a year, and I think they make the pick 1 year later to replace him.
You know, and I want to say, though, a mock draft I was doing a couple days ago, I mean, what do you guys think of defensively? I mean, the coach is a defensive
You can
guy.
find defensive guys
you have
that pick
Denzel
19.
Perryman sitting there. Why not take
They
him?
still
There's no
at 19.
there's no linebacker in the first that would be taken that high either.
I had Eric Armstead, the D lineman from Oregon, but with 2 first-round picks, if they take Devontae Parker with the 12th, they can still pick up a defensive guy at 19.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
they can go either or
Yeah.
for both those picks.
Easily.
All right, let's move on here then. We have at pick 13 the New Orleans Saints, and that is Nate.
All time. We got the New Orleans Saints are going to draft Lyle Collins, offensive tackle out of LSU.
They're going to draft without a doubt.
Without well, actually, I don't know. There's another off the field thing with him now too. So I guess I'm not really certain about him, but I know they'll probably draft an offensive tackle, and I think it's going to be him. But there's a chance that it won't. But I think that's the position they're looking at.
See, this is where I had your guy Bud Dupree going. I think the pass rusher is what they need probably most. It seems like that's what any of those pass rushers would be there at 13 for New Orleans. I think they would take him.
If he's there, I would take him, but I had him gone.
Yeah, so I mean,
I had Randy Gregory, but we flopped him with my Bud Dupree pick. So yeah, New Orleans would take Bud Dupree. They need help on defense.
Yeah,
And plus
but-
they have another first-round pick.
That's the other thing. They still have another pick that they could go after that with, I think.
and it's interesting because I think in the back end, I see them taking defense, and then in the front end, I mean, it could be swapped. You could have them going offensively in the back end and defense in the front end, but we'll see what happens there. I definitely think, though, they're going to go defense in one of those picks. All right, let's move on here. We have Marty with the Dolphins pick.
so the Dolphins are probably one of the biggest confusing teams I've seen in mock drafts. I have no idea what they're taking. I've seen Todd Gurley going to Miami. They have no Sean Moreno still there. I think they have Lamar Miller. Running back, they're not going to go running back, especially with a torn ACL guy. So I got them going, despite signing Greg Jennings this past week, Rashad Perriman of Central Florida. This guy seems to be rising up the boards. Our mocks I've seen, I think Miami could be a team that just takes him. He's a big, aggressive receiver, and he uses his strength to make catches too. He's one of those guys one of those bigger wide receivers, and I've seen a couple highlights of him doing that. Just seems like a guy I've seen shoot up the draft board. So Rashad Perriman and the Dolphins, they need more wide receiver help for Ryan Tannehill, who's developing into one of the better quarterbacks in the league, I think.
You know, I'd like to see where you see him rising up. I've seen him fall in the last 3 weeks. I've seen Perriman fall out of the first round even. I mean, what about this guy Jalen Strong on Arizona
I've seen
State?
him. You talk about him. I've seen him fall out of the draft.
Well, the thing was with
First
Perriman,
round.
no one really knew about him until the combine, and then he ran
Yeah.
a 4.3, I think. So that's the reason he's up there.
He's a raw receiver, but he's got a lot of talent. And
Yeah.
I had Devontae Parker, but with him being gone, I had Rashad Perriman as the next receiver on the board. So
I think after Cooper, White, and Parker, it's a team's preference of what wide receiver they want. And I think
There's a bunch of them to choose from.
Perriman seems like a guy the Dolphins would take in a draft for the way they draft. I mean, they took Deion Jordan at 3. And look where he is right now, just being suspended. So they come out with some random picks in the first round. So.
Yeah, I think they're going to take a position there where the guys we've talked about, if one of them falls, I think that's where Miami goes with that, if one of those guys that we've talked about in the first 13 falls. But that is a hard position for them to draft from.
Yeah, and that interesting for them to lose Deion Jordan. You think they'd maybe even go after a pass rusher there?
Well, Bud Dupree's still on our board, and so is Shane Ray, but it's hard to decide.
Shane Ray's been dropping.
And Shane Ray can also stay in there too. You never know. It's marijuana. Some teams say it's just a lot of guys do it, so you never know. It probably depends on preference. But I think with a guy who just got suspended for drug use, they're going to stay away from a guy like Shane Ray.
He also has a foot injury that could possibly keep him out 5 months. So.
Well, I'll keep you posted on that. We're up at San Francisco 49ers, and Ben, you're up.
Well, the 49ers, Patrick Wills retired, Chris Borland retired. The 49ers, their defense has really dropped off. And a couple years ago when they were playing the Ravens in the Super Bowl, one reason they were there was because of defense. So with the 15th pick, I have them taking Eric Armstead, the defensive end out of Oregon.
Eric Armstead, all right. They've lost two starting corners. I think this could be an area where you see.
You could see a corner.
You could see a corner gone. Your Jalen Collins, Byron Jones has been rising. Marcus Peters, but I don't see that happening.
They have so many needs on defense. They could address corner, D line, or whatever. There's so many. They are one of the teams that I think are at a spot where they have so much to choose from that it's kind of a whichever one they prefer through meetings and interviews and tape. They're in a good spot for what they need to address. I think for value wise.
I think Eric Armstead's the best best defensive player on the board at that time. That's why they take him.
Yep.
See, I had Danny Shelton. I think Eric Armstead right now. He's what I've seen too. I saw something on Twitter today. A guy reported that an Oregon scout said that these Oregon players are strength. They're kind of weak. They're not the strongest guys in the country. They're just not strong, and that I think Danny Shelton may be a better.
Yeah,
pick.
Danny Shelton seems like he might be falling at 20 in our board
He
here.
ran
I think
really slow.
I think Danny
40,
Shelton
so.
fits that defensive line much better than Eric Armstead, especially if they're losing Justin Smith.
I think Shane Ray might have gave you guys some of his
I
little
had Danny
wacky
Shelton there
tobacco.
too, so.
Wacky.
All right, we got pick 16. It looks like Justin, you're going to round this out before we take a break here. Texans at 16. Who do you got them
Right, the
taking?
Houston Texans, they like to run the ball, so they're going to go with the big offensive lineman to run the ball. Andrews Pete, the offensive tackle
They're
from
handing the ball to
Stanford.
the offensive lineman.
No, they run the ball with Arian Foster, but they'll draft Andrews Pete, the offensive tackle. They need help at quarterback. They could use another receiver now that they lost Andre Johnson, but I have offensive tackle.
It's a tough. I've had a tough time deciding who Houston would take too. They
Yeah.
have so many needs, and I've seen somewhere Todd Gurley goes to them. They might want to find a place for Adrian Foster. They could go wide receiver. I had them taking one. It's a tough. I said before about San Francisco, they have a lot of stuff to choose from. Houston's kind of the same way. They have so many needs.
Yeah, the mid-teens are the things that kind of no one really knows about. It depends a lot about the guys' fall. But that's a hard position. I think they're going to take Jalen Collins of LSU. I think he's rising. I'm not sure why he's rising. I don't see it, but I think that's where they're going to take him.
And according to our board, they might as well take Danny Shelton because he's the best player available.
They have
And
interior guys that would.
You had him and J.J. Watts and Clowney, and you got a hell of a defense.
They did just add Wilfork, though.
Yeah,
so.
they have.
I had Wilfork too, and then you
They
really
have
got
so
all
much
of
defensive
them.
linemen. It's ridiculous.
Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break here. That is the first 16 picks of the first round. When we come back, we will finish the rest of the draft. Stay tuned.
How can you get involved with student media at UWSP? Connecting with your campus television station, SBTV, is easy. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Vine, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Pinterest, follow us on Instagram, or connect with us on Google+. But of course, the best way for you to get involved and stay up to date with all that is happening at our station is to stop by our studio. We're located in the Communication Arts Center at UWSP, Studio B, Room 121. You can also drop by our office, Room 130, for more information on station happenings. We can't wait to get you involved. Come join us at SPTV. Let's make media together.
Got an itch to be on air? Join the SBTV News crew. Being an on and off air reporter will help you gain experience in interviewing, shooting and editing video, and reporting behind the anchor desk. Join SBTV News, pointing to you.
Welcome back to this draft special where we are picking every single first round pick of the draft. I will start off here. We're at pick 17 with the San Diego Chargers. Right now they need a nose tackle. Danny Shelton's there. Why not take him?
You're going Danny Shelton? Interesting pick. They might need some defensive tackle help. I think running back Todd Gurley's right there for him. They need to replace Ryan Matthews, who has been being replaced for 4 years now, it seems like, with being injuries, and Brandon Oliver doesn't seem to be the answer, and Ronnie Brown's old, so.
Or you're going to get stuck with Danny Woodhead.
Or you get stuck with Danny Woodhead, who's not a starting running back. He's more of a compliment, so I think Todd Gurley is
I had Todd Gurley as well. But
Same.
But Danny Shelton, not a bad pick at.
If he's there, yeah, if he's
yeah,
there.
best player available.
He's there.
All right, let's move on here. We have the Kansas City Chiefs at 18, and Nate, you're up.
You know, I'm really glad I got this pick because this is going to be very popular. I have them drafting Nelson Aguilar out of the wide receiver from USC. I know it's not a very popular pick, but they need help there, and I think he's the best available because they just got Macklin, and last year they had no receiving touchdowns out of the receivers. I think.
Well, they ain't going to have one with Nelson Aguilar there, but
This is
He's
their
actually
guy.
considered probably one of the better route
Jalen
runners.
Strong's
He's
still
the best
there. I
route
think
runner.
he's the best wide receiver still on the board.
I've seen stuff with Aguilar. He's considered one of the more smooth route runners and pass catchers in the draft, so I think that's a safe pick for Kansas City. I think he's a good
He's
solid.
definitely moving up the draft
moving
board,
up.
but I think it might be a
Strong.
little high, but it's they do need a wide receiver.
I've seen Jalen Strong moving out of that first round a lot in mock drafts, so I think that Aguilar's moving up.
I
so
had him taking a corner because they need a corner too.
They need wide receiver help bad, that is for sure.
All right, let's keep her rolling here. We have pick 19. That's the Cleveland Browns. Ben, what do you got?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Todd Gurley was taken, correct?
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't?
No.
Okay, so then with the 19th pick, the Browns are going to take Todd Gurley from
great-
Georgia. I mean, the Browns in the past, they've screwed up the first-round pick, and I think they're going to make a mistake taking Gurley before Melvin Gordon, but that's who I see them taking.
I disagree with
that
you
works.
totally.
That works so well for Cleveland. I think if that happens, you get Devontae Parker and Todd Gurley. Now you just need to find out who your quarterback is. So they got a good defense already right now. It seems like they're building it up, and I think you get great value in your offense getting Todd Gurley
Yeah,
and
they
Devontae Parker.
could use a running back after
They-
Trent Richardson
yeah.
failed.
You know, and it really depends what Cleveland wants. You want a pass catcher and a freak running back, you take Todd Gurley. And Melvin Gordon, he's improved on the passing game, but he's not Todd Gurley on the passing game. And I think that's going to be the difference maker between those two. What I've also seen with Tavon Coleman, they just threw a stat on ESPN the other day. He has the most yards average after contact. So, and that's interesting. That's above all the running backs, Gurley and Melvin Gordon.
He's
so
not the
he's
first.
interesting. I'm not saying he's a first-round pick, so don't put words in my mouth. But I'm just saying that's just an interesting thing to throw.
Well,
throw
one
out
reason
there.
for that might be his offensive line wasn't as good at Indiana. So
Yeah,
And Melvin Gordon had holes the size of a
Yeah.
bus. So what can you say there? All right, let's move it on here to the Philadelphia Eagles at pick 20. That is Nate. You're up.
Well, not a big Chip Kelly fan, so I'm not really sure, but I think did we have Rashad Perriman
Yep.
taken already?
Yeah.
Dolphins.
that's
All
why
right, well, that's where I had him, but I'll go with Jalen Strong, who's still there. He's the best receiver that's still there, and that's a position they definitely need help on.
They could go corner, I think. That's
Yeah.
probably more. I had them taking Byron Jones because that's a Chip Kelly pick. But Jalen Strong could be a Chip Kelly pick too because we have no idea what Chip Kelly's going to do on draft day.
I think
know.
any offensive guy is a Chip Kelly pick.
Yeah,
rather than a defensive pick right away.
Byron Jones an athletic freak. It seems like, and
That's
I think
true.
he would be Chip Kelly's ideal defensive guy at a corner position.
Yeah, and I've seen Byron Jones there at the Eagles too. I've been seeing that a lot more, so I definitely think they would go corner in that position. So you're wrong.
They did address that in the offseason when they brought in Bronner, so I think they addressed that a little bit.
Let's move along here. We got the Cincinnati Bengals at 21, and Nate, you just keep rolling here.
Yeah, well, we got Landon Collins, Alabama safety, at 21. This is a perfect place for Collins. He's going to start right away, day one. Their defense has been decent, but I think the safety is a big concern for them. And I think Landon Collins is the best safety in the draft, for sure.
Yeah, he's the only safety I see going in the first round. He's the only safety I've heard of in this draft, to be honest. There's really no safety depth in this draft this year. After last year, kind of had about 3 guys go in the first round.
I had Cincinnati going offensive tackle after they had Whitworth say, "Go ahead and I dare you to draft my replacement." He's getting up there in age, so and they could use the offensive lineman.
There's a lot of linemen there.
But
I could see
there's
that.
a lot of linemen there.
I could see that.
All right, let's roll here. We got a pick 22, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jocelyn Pomplin, who do you select?
Well, I was going to go Landon Collins, perfect replacement for retired Troy Polamalu, but now he's off the board. And I'm guessing, is Jalen Collins off our board too?
No.
Yes, oh no, he's not.
Jalen Collins is still there?
Jalen Collins is sitting pretty.
Well, then we'll go with him because Ike Taylor, I think, didn't he retire as well? So they could use the secondary help. So we'll go Jalen Collins. He's the next corner on the board.
Did we pick Byron Jones yet?
No,
We have not,
Byron
and-
So you're
Jones.
gonna pick Jalen?
He's
even over
athletic,
Kevin.
but
I had
he's-
Kevin Johnson in that spot too.
Oh,
I don't
wait.
see Jalen
Wait a
Collins
second.
moving up,
Hold on.
being this.
We go Kevin Johnson. My bad.
Oh boy.
I had him rated higher than
About to
than
say,
higher than Jalen
about to
Collins.
say,
So
there's
yeah,
no way
Kevin
Jalen
Johnson.
Collins goes over
My bad.
Kevin Johnson. It
Yeah,
seems like.
well, we skipped because I had Kevin Johnson higher. So Kevin.
You
Johnson.
know, and they definitely need someone there because they brought in Mike Mitchell and they thought he was going to do something for them. And granted, he's playing safety. He just hasn't really panned out for them. And then they go ahead and they lose Troy Polamalu, so they definitely need someone in the
Mike
secondary.
Mitchell, another
there.
Panther great.
Going on to the Detroit Lions here. Marty, you're up and you're going to steal my thunder.
I am going to
And
steal
Marty
the thunder.
stole this from you,
I
by
am
the
gonna
way.
Not really. I've seen it
Yes,
before.
yeah.
After
you
I heard
called
him
me
say it,
crazy when I said
and then I
this.
looked at it more in depth. I kind of believed it a little bit. You would think they go D tackle here. Danny Shelton's gone, so I think they would have taken him if he was there. Melvin Gordon out of Wisconsin going to Detroit. Kurt had this. I heard him say it a week ago. Melvin Gordon going to Detroit. I was like, that sounds crazy. I don't know why they would do that. And then I started looking in more depth in it. They only got Joyke Bell really there. Melvin Gordon, I think, would be an ideal guy. Detroit's like a big boom type offense. They look at that big long play, especially on the deep pass to Calvin Johnson. They can easily get that with Melvin Gordon. I think they get a more balanced offense with him in there. He can find a hole. He's gone for about 50 yards. I think they can wait for a D tackle too later on in the second round.
But here's the thing: Stafford throws the ball 50 times a game, so I don't think they're gonna worry about the run game too much. They had Reggie Bush. I feel like Gordon's kind of like Reggie Bush in that sense, and Reggie Bush obviously didn't work out there.
I just think that you never know what Jim Caldwell or Joe Lombardi what they're gonna do. He didn't throw many. It seemed like they ran the ball a little bit more last year than any years before, and I think they're going to try to continue to do that.
Well, and they need someone opposite Joyke Bell.
Yeah, Joyke Bell's not up.
They do need a running. I had defensive tackle losing Sue and Nick Fairley, but
I think there's so many on the board right now. You can address that in the second round.
All right, let's move on here. We have Nate. You're up with pick 24, the Arizona Cardinals.
Well, Marty, you stole my guy, Melvin Gordon. That's why I had him going 24 the Cardinals. But I'll switch that around because for the Lions at 23, I had Shane Ray. He's going to drop down. The Cardinals took Tyrann Mathieu a couple years ago. He had those huge off-the-field problems. And I think that's where Shane Ray is going to go.
Shane Ray. All right, I guess if
I
you
agree
throw him
with
that
that.
Coach of the Year,
got it,
he
man.
might be able to turn him
Justin
around.
knows.
But Shane Ray, I mean, marijuana 2 days ago.
You were just talking about
Hold on now. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here, and then you throw in a prior, I want to say a scout or coach said he might slip to the 4th round after what happened this week. I mean, what do you think of that? You still think in their eyes Shane Ray's their guy?
Oh, absolutely. He's one of the top 3 deep linebackers in this draft. Not if you don't worry about the off the field stuff. If his injury you still don't know about, that's going to be at the GM's discretion about what they do with that. So he could play. He might be out 5 months. Could
They
play.
took
Never know.
Tyrann Mathieu too a couple years
Exactly,
ago. Bruce Arians is a guy that I think he can turn players around a little bit. So that's a ideal
Exactly.
pick.
That's a need that they need, the linebacker.
Let's keep this rolling here. We're at pick 25, the Carolina Panthers. Marty, you're on.
Yeah, so they got their needs that I saw. Their biggest needs were offensive tackle, DN, wide receiver, and running back. I don't think I'm taking Bud Dupree here. I don't see him taking a wide receiver or running back because there's really no one there. So Kurt's not going to like this pick. They're going offensive tackle because they badly need one. You had to see it last year. Cam Newton was getting beat up all last year in the pocket. Even with a bad ankle, he was getting beat up. And they signed Michael Orr, who was rated like the 32th best, like one of the worst tackles in the league too. So great free agent signing right there. So they're going to go with DJ Humphries out of Florida because I know Kurt loves that pick. He's been seeing it all season. They need offensive line help badly. They can get some other help in the second round, especially at wide receivers and other positions.
You know, and
you want Shaq Thompson there, but they have Thomas Davis and
I
Luke
look at it
Kuechly.
this way. There's a press conference today, and from all the press conferences leading up to the draft, Dave Gettleman is pretty satisfied for what they did in this offseason everywhere around the entire team. And I just don't see DJ Humphries being the best player available in the draft right now, and that's the only pick they're going to do is the best player available. I think he could slide to the second round, and maybe they even move up then, or Clemens falls to him, Jake Fisher. I just don't see them taking linemen in the first round. They're pretty high on Michael Orr, rebounding from his terrible career in Tennessee, and I think they take a chance and go with a Shaq Thompson because you have Thomas Davis, who pretty much was the same stature as Shaq Thompson and who played safety and then transferred to outside linebacker. He'd be a perfect mold and a perfect guy to teach.
Well, I hope the
teach
tape
him.
on Michael Orr was not the movie The Blind Side because they made him look like $1 million.
Well, I'll tell you what, Michael Orr started on the Baltimore Ravens when they won a Super Bowl. He did a hell of a job. And the coach there for him at the time is the Panthers coach now, so they're hoping he can revitalize
Well,
his
there's
career.
2 tackles, and the
So-
other one wasn't very good either last year.
Just think about this. I haven't taken Devin Smith. Big receiver out of Ohio State.
Devin
Need a big
Smith
player.
there, you know,
They
Oh
need
my
someone
God.
else opposite of Kevin Benjamin.
And Nate, you were probably watching.
You were probably watching the mock draft.
Nate
yesterday.
was
No,
watching
it might
NFL.
happen.
Nate
It
was
could
watching
happen.
NFL Nation. And his whole sheet is probably the entire
No,
draft
it
picks
could
of the
very easily
reporters.
happen.
But Devin
They are
Smith
not.
is a reach out in pick one, and
That sounds like a Panthers pick too.
and Dave Gettleman said today they're not reaching on anyone
Because Dave
so-
Gettleman's telling you the truth at a press conference.
And Dave Gettleman has drafted very well the last 3 years. So you're just talking stupid.
I don't
Need
know.
someone else.
Did-
You're
That's how
talking
you
Did
stupid.
he tell you he was drafting a wide
You're
receiver in the
talking
first round
stupid
last
here.
year?
Yeah, they need
Did he
someone
go
else
flat out
outside
drafting a
of
wide
Benjamin.
receiver in the first
I got
round?
him. I got him with Marty going offensive line. I had
They're
TJ
so
Clemens.
they were
need-
terrible.
they're like-
They were
they're
terrible.
a
They
team
did
that-
off-season moves.
they're a team
Michael
that likes to run
Orr.
the ball. They need
It doesn't
not a
matter. I
task
mean-
team.
Michael
They need
Orr.
offensive linemen.
They don't. From what it sounds like, they don't need offensive linemen. That's coming from Ron Rivera and Dave Gettleman.
We'll see when season comes
Yeah,
out,
we'll
I
see what
guess.
happens.
see.
You'll be asking for
We'll
a lineman.
see. All right, let's
Said
move
he'll
on
get Devin
here.
Smith.
Pick 26, Justin. You have the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, I'm going to go Marcus Peters, a cornerback out of Washington. He's had off-field issues, but best player available at that position and one of their needs. So Marcus Peters.
That he's what I've seen on him is that they say he's the best cornerback in this draft over Trey Waynes.
Best cover corner. Yeah.
Best cover corner. His problem is his attitude and all that stuff.
Yeah, he got kicked off the team in Washington.
John Harbaugh, Ozzie Newsome, they run a pretty tight ship. I mean, they dealt with Ray Rice, so I have no idea if Marcus Peters would be a guy they want, but he is talented, and they'll go on talent. So if they need a cornerback, there's no wide receivers there for them to take to replace Jacoby Jones and Torrey Smith, but cornerback is a need for Baltimore.
Absolutely. I think I had them taking Jalen Strong, but I had him picked we had him picked a few picks ago, so I think that's going to be off the board. So I think that's the position they look for.
All right, let's move along here. Dallas Cowboys are at pick 27. Nate, that's your team.
Well, I had them taking Kevin Johnson, but he's off the board. So I think they're going to go. Let's go with Bud Dupree if he's still on the board.
They need a pass rusher.
They need a pass rusher. Greg Hardy's out for 10 games. They need someone.
And Nate, I don't know if he'll be out for 10 games the way this appeal's going, so we'll see about that.
That's still not the same position, though. He plays D-line.
Can't wait till he's
And
6.
Sean Lee's been injured the past couple of years. so-
Exactly, and they
Yeah.
have Rolando McClain who's facing possible suspension.
What about an inside linebacker for them? We talk about Sean Lee for them.
That's
I mean,
way too early.
I think it's so hard to decide who's going to take a linebacker in this first round.
Yeah.
Who goes first? I think once you see one go, you're going to see a bunch of dominoes fall.
It could be Kendricks at 27, but I think inside linebacker there is too early.
It's almost like everyone's kind of just waiting for the first team
Yeah.
to fire the shot and draft a linebacker, I think.
all right, let's move along here. We have the Denver Broncos at pick 28, and of course I'm not ready for this pick. Malcolm Brown, D tackle. They need a D lineman. Why not? That's their guy from Texas. I don't know anything about him, but we're going with him for the Denver Broncos at pick 28.
Well, Pot Roast left, so I guess that's a decent That's a decent ad, but I think Malcolm Brown is going to be off the board already at 28. So I think.
Well, he isn't in our mock draft.
Yeah, so I have him taking Cameron Irving, actually, the center.
Center, and I've seen that too.
State.
I had Cameron Irving as well because I thought the other defensive tackles were off the board.
Yep.
They need keep Peyton Manning upright if they want to have any chance of success again this year.
I hadn't taken a lineman, but it was DJ Humphries in this mock. But obviously he went to the Carolina Panthers because they needed more.
All right, pick 29. We have the Indianapolis Colts, and that is Ben.
Well,
And Ben, you've been pretty quiet because you picked 5 times in the first 5 picks.
Yeah, I mean, kind of sucks. Well, it was kind of nice having the little break to cross off the players that were taken. But with the 29th pick, I have the Colts taking Cameron Irving, the center from Florida State.
Center from Florida State. Interesting. I mean, what do you guys
I
think?
had them taking a tackle because I guess they need linemen. So.
I saw that he could play almost anywhere on the line.
Yeah, so they need
I
linemen.
had offensive line there too. So
Yeah, I had Andrews Pete, but he's already gone, so I think they're going to go with some sort of offensive lineman.
Linemen are just hard to decide what team likes who or
Yeah.
what team likes. So they're not flashy picks.
All right, moving along, we have the Green Bay Packers.
The one that matters.
The one that matters to these
Of course,
three,
the Panthers fan has it.
bums here. You know what? I think Packers, they almost have to go inside linebacker. They've been struggling. Me and Marty go back and forth about A.J. Hawk. Eric Kendricks on the board, they take them, and they get a linebacker that they've desperately needed for years now.
I mean, they could go Kendricks. You'll have people glad. I'd be glad they took a linebacker. They need it badly. I don't know. I've seen now stuff where people are not viewing Kendricks to be the top guy anymore. It's very much a preference. I've seen stuff where Denzel Perryman, the Packers like Stephon Anthony out of Clemson. They like him, and also too you got Byron Jones still on the board for cornerback. I think if Byron Jones is there, they might take him too.
If he's there, that's
Yeah, I think if Byron Jones is there, they take him and go way in the second round. Or I could also see it too. It might benefit him more is if they trade out. But I think Byron Jones might be the pick there if he's on the board.
I had them taking Marcus Peters, but we already had him gone. But I think he could possibly slide down to 30 because all those off the field issues. And that would be a good pick for them at 30 because they need a cover corner with Jamal Williams and Devon House leaving, and that's what Marcus Peters offers.
I could also see Ted Thompson not taking a corner in the first round because if you notice, the only first round cornerback I think he's had on his team was Charles Wilson. That was through free agency. He finds his guys through it. He had undrafted free agents as his number 1 and number 2, and Jamal Williams and Sam Shields. He signed as undrafted free agents. And Casey Hayward got drafted in the second round. Devon House was in the 4th round, so he can also find his guys later in the rounds too. So
yeah, but the only thing is, if you don't draft a corner there, then the only ones left are Byron Jones and P.J. Williams, and there's no way they're going to be available in the second round. The Packers have a pick.
yeah.
They find gems all the time.
I had him going defensive tackle because last year they just got gashed against the run. Raji coming back, but he's off of injury.
See, they got Raji and Guyon. I think they wait
Troy
for
Guyon back, but
I think
he's
they wait a
getting
little
up
I
there.
apologize. I'm actually switching that. That's who I was going to take. Eddie Goldman, the defensive tackle. That's who I had in my mock draft.
that's
And I
who I
can't
got
find
too,
him on
so.
this sheet of paper, all these piles of paper I have here. But yeah, that's who I was thinking of too, Eddie Goldman. I've seen that they're interested in D tackle. I remember telling you about that, and you said they better not do
I
that.
don't
So,
see them. I don't
I
see
think
them
that's
going
too
deep.
early.
I think that's too early for a D tackle in the first round, especially you re-sign Guyon and Raji. You still got Josh Boyd there. You still got Mike Daniels. You still got some depth now with this.
But you look at it.
if Raji and Guyon were not there, I would say take.
But
Eddie
according to
Goldman.
our mock, I mean, inside linebacker, I don't think we picked one this entire draft. So, hey, if they get him in the second round, they get a D tackle and inside linebacker.
The problem I think is that they're at 30 and at 62, and in between those picks, half those, almost all those guys will be gone. So I think their best option might be trading out if they don't see any value there, which I think would be.
Well,
best.
we have no trades in this.
I know we don't have trades, but I don't see them going D
They're in a
tackle
top
either.
position.
They're in a tough spot of what they need to address, and there's really no top guy that fell.
Speaking of tough spot, the New Orleans Saints at 31, they need a lot of help on defense. Marty, who do you got them taking?
Okay, so who did they have in the first? We had them taking a lineman,
We had them
Yeah,
taking.
Lyle Collins.
Lyle Collins, and judging by what I have right here, they're all gone. You had Bud Dupree just going recently to where was it?
Dallas.
I think he would have slipped. He probably would have fallen to New Orleans. They would have lucked out, but they need wide receiver and they need a tight end, and we're going with a versatile guy, and Devin Funchess out of Michigan. He's kind of a stretch pick here, but
I hope they do that. I'll tell you that.
He can be a guy that I think he can fulfill that Jimmy Graham type role where you can put him on the outside, you can put him on the inside, and develop him kind of into a hybrid type receiver. It's going to take some developing, but with Drew Brees throwing the ball and I forgot his name, the coach, Sean Payton, they develop their weapons pretty well, and I think Devin Funchess is a good fit.
Yeah, with Jimmy Graham gone, they definitely need to address the tight end situation. So that's why I think they draft Max Williams, tight end out of Minnesota.
But the thing about Max Williams, I think they could wait till the second round because they pick at 44, which ain't too far away.
Okay.
So I think they could go
Yeah.
defense here and take Max Williams at 44.
That's true.
I don't see any defensive guys that they need. They need an offensive. They need unless they go corner.
Like Eric Kendricks, maybe the
You
linebacker.
could go Byron Jones
Or
at
Byron
corner,
Jones.
but
Corner, yeah.
there's no pass rusher, which I think they would have addressed before.
Yeah, I
offensive
think
line.
I had him pass rusher at 13, so.
Yeah, they need some defensive help, but I think right here you don't. I think you take a wide receiver guy like Funchess. That's
Yeah.
what I got. It's a tough pick. They have so many needs.
I originally had a wide receiver because I had him going defense first to replace Kenny Stills. Colson's getting up there in age.
Yeah, they need some help. Well, Kenny Stills is in Miami now. They don't even have him.
Yeah,
So
Kenny
they-
Stills is gone.
Oh, I thought you said he was
That's-
still there.
No.
Yeah, they
All
they
right,
need help.
moving on here. We got the New England Patriots with the last pick. Wrapping it up is Justin. Who are they
All
taking?
right. Well, I got him going defensive tackle Jordan Phillips of Oklahoma because they lost Vince Wilfork. They could easily go corner. They lost Revis and Brandon Browner, so they could go corner, but I have Jordan Phillips, a defensive tackle, to replace Vince Wilfork.
And I had Peters falling here. That's clearly not the case in this one. And if they could get him, he could replace Darrell Revis and Browner.
I think the surprise right now, if we could probably move on to that, is the guys that fell out of the first round that didn't get chosen. I think it was Byron Jones might be the most surprising guy. That if we didn't have him, I think he would go to New England here. To be honest, they need to replace Revis and Browner. I think he would be the guy. But obviously, the way our draft went, he falls out, which is very surprising considering teams like Philadelphia, Green Bay, and New England need cornerback help badly.
Well, the thing is, I still have them taking Eddie Golden, but he's already off. So I think if he's there, that's where they take. I like that position. You're looking at defensive tackle, but I think they have to take Byron Jones if he's still available at 32, and they need a lot of help at cornerback now.
All right, and one more thing. I'm just throwing this on you guys here, and we'll just go down the list, starting with Marty down to Justin. Possible trades. If you have one trade on draft day in the first round, who do you think it's going to be?
It's going to be Philadelphia. I think they find a way. I don't know. Just the way I'm feeling. I don't. Tennessee's going to be involved in it, I think. Or who? How do we all?
If that happens, there's going to be more trades than that.
I think Philadelphia's going to be the team involved, trading up at least, the big trade up. I mean, you can see. I've seen stuff in Minnesota trading down now. So many.
Yeah, they could
Especially those
definitely trade
teens.
down.
Who knows what trades? I mean, Buffalo traded up one time to draft E.J. Manuel, and last year we had a trade up Buffalo and Cleveland. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. Cleveland seems to be a team that can wheel and deal. They got 2 picks to work with, so. But my gut instinct is Chip Kelly going to be doing some crazy business.
Well, we're looking at Tennessee. If Tennessee doesn't take Mariota, there's probably going to be a trade somewhere.
And I think
that's
we
what
all
we're
said it was
looking
going to be at number 5 with Washington.
Exactly, yeah. So Washington, look out for them.
All right, Ben, I know you have a list of trades here.
Yeah.
What's one you think?
If I had to go for one, it would be the Raiders and Falcons switching spots at 8 and 4. Dan Quinn was the one who recruited Dante Fowler Jr. to Florida when Dan Quinn was coaching in college. So I think the Falcons would trade up and take Dante Fowler Jr.
And I actually saw that on Twitter that Falcons said they will try to do anything they can to get Dante Fowler on their roster, so it possibly could happen. And Falcons have done it in the past.
Well, the problem is the Jaguars are going to take Fowler at 3 if he's there.
I've seen so much
But
Dante
then again,
Fowler.
if Leonard Williams
But
is
if he's,
there
I'm
and
just saying, if he's
Titans
there at
take
4, it could
Mariota,
happen.
there's-
I think
the whole
True.
thing really depends on Tennessee.
it depends on Mariota. Yeah.
There really is Mariota in Tennessee. What happens there? I don't think he falls to the Jets. That's something I just don't see happening.
Justin, anything happening with AP or what?
I've heard mostly that it's not likely going to happen, that they're going to trade him, no trades.
Rick
but
Spielman came out and said no, so I believe him just like I believe Dave Gettleman.
I don't think they're going to trade him, but they could easily trade back. They're definitely a candidate for that. Another trade, the Jets, their teams are calling about Muhammad Wilkerson, so they might move down.
Yeah,
So
and I've seen
the
that. I
Jets could
just
be
saw that
active.
today. All right, one last thing here. Just spitballing here. Who do you think is going to be the best player in the draft? And we'll start with you.
The best overall player in the draft?
Who is going to hit a home run in the first round?
Home run. Leonard Williams, best player in the draft by everybody. Most talented guy there.
I'm gonna have to go with Dante Fowler Jr.
Why?
I think he's an I think he's an absolute stud, and the fact that he can be a defensive end linebacker hybrid that could go well with the Falcons and their needs on defense. So I'm gonna go with Dante Fowler Jr.
I'm gonna go with Jameis Winston. I think that's why you pick him at number 1. He's gonna be that guy. You got Mike Evans and you got Vincent Jackson out there, so he's got guys to throw to. And if Muscle Hamster, their running back,
Lord,
gets healthy, look out. Jameis Winston could be a force.
I'm going to go safe pick and go Amari Cooper. I just think we've seen so many busts on defensive guys, quarterbacks. And I just see the way Amari Cooper's played. I think he's going to be up there in wide receivers. Where he's going to
But
be.
then again, he's in Oakland. So.
He's got Derek Carr. Derek Carr's not a bad
He's got
quarterback.
Derek Carr,
I
but
think
it's still Oakland.
It's gonna be tough for him being the 1.
I think Amari Cooper is my guy. I just see you can see so many busts in this draft. It's so many busts.
I'm going to go with Vic Beasley or Randy Gregory.
DJ Humphries.
Crazy as it sounds. I think John Fox can mold that linebacker. And I tell you what, that guy I think is going to be special on the Bears if they get him.
Is that John Fox? He really molds those teams into championship winners, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Thank you all for tuning in with us tonight. I also like to thank Nathan Hansen, Ben Zutini, Marty Kaufman, and Jocelyn Pomplin for joining me on the debate desk. Special thanks to our technical staff and all their hard work to make this possible. Be sure to check us out at Facebook and on Twitter. And remember, Stevens Point, here at Final Take, anything Pointers, anything sports.